Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Maneliki, and we are back for some more Stellaris. Today, I just wanted to talk about the Utopia Banks update that they've just released to Stellaris. It's a huge, huge update. There's a lot of material to cover here, guys, so just strap yourselves in, get a drink, get some popcorn, whatever you do. This is probably going to be a long one. So this update is basically split into two parts. There's the Banks update, which is a free update that everybody gets. It just patches right in for you. And then there's the actual Utopia paid DLC part of it, which we'll cover in two separate parts. So starting with the free Banks update that everybody receives, we have a major rework to the government system. They've added ethics, they've removed ethics. Some ethics have been reworked, they have different bonuses ever so slightly. But most importantly, there's a new civics system. So in addition to your ethics, you can now pick a couple of civics for your empire, which are major game changers in how your government operates. So before you had, you'd pick a few ethics, and they give you bonuses here, penalties there, whatever. There was no real flavors to speak of. There was no real, uniqueness or individuality to any of the government types. So they've completely solved this issue with this new civic system. The idea is each civic comes with its own unique mechanic. For example, maybe Fanatic Purifier, which is only unlocked if you happen to have militarist, fanatic, xenophobe kind of thing, and that will allow you to you basically purify the galaxy of anybody that's not you. You hate everybody, which gives you the bonus of you have a better fire rate on your ships. But unfortunately, that also means you can't engage in diplomacy. You're just completely hostile. Alternatively, there's other civics, that might have other unique mechanics. So each sort of playthrough feels completely unique, as opposed to before where all the races and kind of government things sort of blended together and there was no real uniqueness. But now there's quite a bit of flavor, so that's really great. There's a brand new system in the game, which is called Traditions. Now, it's a lot like if you've played Civilization 5, they've got that sort of system in there. Basically, there's a new resource in the game called Unity, and it comes in automatically, and you can also build buildings which will increase it. There's certain civics which will increase the rate that it comes in. But it's a lot like that Civ 5 system, so that as you gain more of this resource, you can pick certain bonuses that come up, and as you complete a group of bonuses, you get like a set bonus, which can be really powerful when you combine them with certain civics and certain play styles. It really adds a really great sort of, again, another really great flavor to the game that further customize your empire just the way you want it. Personally, I really like it. It feels really great. They've made some changes to the food system. It no longer operates on a planet-wide level. Food is actually now generated on an empire-wide basis, which means you can have farm planets outputting tons of food. Meanwhile, you have other planets not outputting any food, and they can just import the excess food from other planets, and you can also trade food now. I think this is a really great change. It makes it just feel a lot better, and yeah, it works really well. They've reworked how factions work. The new faction system is really great. So basically the way it works now is you have different factions in your empire, and they will form occasionally, and they'll make certain demands. They'll have a list of demands they want fulfilled, and you can either ignore them and they'll start to get pissed off, or you can try and meet these demands and make these factions happy. If you make the factions happy, they'll generate influence for you, and if you don't make them happy, the pops will become pissed off, and if you have enough pissed off pops, you'll get unrest on your planets, and you could end up with rebellions and such. But I really like what they've done with the faction system. It's really neat, and like I said, you just bend to their will a little bit, give them a little bit of what they want, and you gain all kinds of influence. It's a really neat system. You now also have the ability to tinker with the rights and freedoms and living conditions of each individual pop species on your empire. So you can set a particular species to have a really lavish lifestyle and to be really happy. You can set another particular species to be slaves and be miserable and work for you. And you can even set species to be eaten as livestock or executed or whatever. This is freaking amazing. This is one of my favorite changes in the entire patch. Come on, you can eat other sentient species. Like, what more do you need? There's also a refugee system. So if you don't want to purge a population, if you want to play nice, you can just kind of displace them or encourage these pops to leave your planet if you don't like a particular species on your planets, as an example. So you can displace them. Also, if you're purging, they can they can run from your planets and try and seek refugee status in other planets and other empires. And you can set policies of whether you want to allow refugees or whether you want to keep them out of your empire or whatever. So that's pretty neat. They've added a brand new music player at the top right of the screen, which is pretty neat. Some of the other Paradox titles already have this, so you can kind of, it's like a little MP3 player. You can skip through the different songs in the game. So it's a neat little addition. I like it. There's a number of really interesting quality of life changes. I'm not going to go over them all. There's too many on the list, really, but you know, you can have your ship engine color is now based on your flag color, which is kind of neat. So instead of always blue, you can have different colors on your ship, the engine trails that they leave behind. There's a few new flag colors, which is actually really nice. It shakes up the color palette a bit. They've added new war goals. You know, you can have them dismantle their outposts. For example, it's an interesting war goal. There's tech, which allows cheaper war goals, which kind of addresses some of the late game concerns people were having, because you'd have to conquer like 50 planets in order to take like 2 planets. Well, they've kind of fixed that a little bit with the new war goal system and the tech and the war goal cost, which is nice. There is a ton of balance adjustments they've made. There's way too many to list again. I mean, the patch notes are there, you can certainly go through them, but tons of balance updates, really great stuff. Ethics now apply on an empire-wide level, not to individual pops. There have been adjustments made to the different bonuses that ethics give. There have been various UI updates to the game, cleaning things up, polishing things up. So this Banks update has really been a really great update. A lot of really excellent changes that people have been asking for a long time, and they really do a lot to flesh the game out and take it in the right direction. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the actual paid features of the expansion itself, the Utopia expansion. Now the flagship feature, I guess, for this expansion is the mega structures. Now these are huge things that you can build around stars, and they're kind of like, I've heard people compare them to the Civilization Wonder mechanic, and that is sort of accurate, except I'd argue that it's quite a bit grander on a much larger scale, not just because it's space, but because the amount of time and resources you need to invest into these is just colossal, but the payout is huge. They're totally worth it, and they're really cool. So first off, you have Dyson spheres, which are really interesting. They're these giant shells that you build around a star to harness all of its energy. Pretty nuts. They put out a lot of energy, but they take forever to build, as you can imagine. There's ring worlds, which exist in the game previously, but you couldn't build them. You could only find them on Fallen Empires. But now we can actually build our own ring worlds, which is crazy. They act as massive planets. I think it's something like 4 or 5 Gaia worlds is what they basically create for you, which is pretty crazy. You can build a science nexus, which is this massive science complex, which obviously gives you huge bonuses to your research. You can also build sentry arrays, which are these great big sentry stations which provide you with complete vision over the entire map of the game, which is crazy. Now, in addition to these mega structures, there's kind of an extra one here called habitats. Now, what these are, it's basically a buildable planet. It's like a space station you build around an uninhabitable planet, which will basically create a little planet kind of for you that you can live on, like a little space station planet thing. And the idea is they want to let people build tall, as they say, rather than going wide. So if you're in a game with a whole bunch of empires kind of crowded around you and you have no really way to expand without warmongering or whatever, and you don't want to do that, you can go tall, which means you can build habitats to increase your population and things like that without having to take additional territory, which is kind of nice. There's also new Ascension perks added with the Utopia expansion. Now, we previously talked about the Unity system and the Tradition system. With the paid DLC, you get Ascension perks. So every time you complete a set of traditions, like in a group, not only do you get the set completion bonus for that group, but you also unlock an Ascension perk slot, and there's 8 in the game. These are huge bonuses to your empire, and some of them lead to different evolution paths that you can take. So there's an evolution ascension path where you get genetic bonuses. There's psionics, which leads to the shroud, which is something really cool. There's cybernetics, basically, which lets you turn your species into robots. So there's all kinds of really crazy stuff with those ascension perks. Great big bonuses, definitely worth pursuing. We now have the ability to indoctrinate primitive species that we find on worlds. So what used to happen before is, you'd find this primitive race and you'd go to uplift them or whatever, and everything would be cool, and then they get uplifted and it turns out, oh look, they're fanatic purifiers and they attack you, which is kind of dumb and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So now what you can do is you can indoctrinate them, and that's going to shift their ethics towards your own. That way when they become, when you uplift them or enlighten them or whatever, they will have your ethics and they will actually be a useful part of your empire rather than a little bastard, basically. There are exclusive civics to the Utopia expansion. Things like Fanatic Purifier, which we mentioned before, which allows you to just go complete space asshole and kill everybody. There's a Hive Mind civic, which everybody has been super excited about. This basically, you're a hive, your pops do not care about happiness or ethics really. They're just part of one mind, and it's crazy. It's a really, really neat mechanic. There's one called Syncretic Evolution, which allows you to start your game with a slave race on your planet. I'm playing around with that now. It's really, really, really neat. There's a Mechanist civic, which is similar to the slave one, the Syncretic Evolution, but you start off with robots on your planet, and you have the tech. You start with the tech to build more. So you have these robot slaves, basically. It's really, really neat. So they've added these really cool new civics. I really like what it adds to the game. You've got new purge types, new slavery types, which is really, really cool to add to your roleplay if you want. And there's a whole bunch of new music tracks they've added to the game. The music in Stellaris, as you know, is just beautiful and amazing, and they've added some excellent new tracks to the track pool, which is always a welcome addition. So that's basically the gist of the update. Obviously, that's not absolutely everything that they've included. There's patch notes if you want to see every little detail, but that's pretty much the main overview of all the main basic features of the update, and it's pretty significant. This is by far the most significant update the game has ever received, and I would probably argue it's probably the best one as well. It really, really fleshes out the game. This isn't a review. This is an overview, but it's hard not to give my opinion at the end of all this, and my opinion is it is an excellent update. The Banks update is absolutely worth coming back for if you're kind of on hiatus from the game. And if you do enjoy Stellaris, getting the DLC, the Utopia DLC, is just a complete no-brainer. It's excellent in every way, so I highly recommend you pick that up. But that's basically been my overview, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If there's something I missed or something you want to hear about, by all means, feel free to leave a message in the comments below, and I'd be happy to address it. But for now, I think that's it. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.